Lots of conservatives are dreading Pride Month, but I'm excited. We have big plans for Pride Month this year. Stay tuned. Department of Homeland Security has also issued a warning about an increase in anti-LGBTQ violence as we're entering Pride season. We talked about it a little bit last week, but we're going to be touching on it again and kind of going over the details about how Target has become the target of a lot of anti-trans backlash. It's kind of like tradition at this point that Target puts out their Pride merch in June. They are well known for being one of the first companies back in the day to stand up for trans people being able to use the bathroom in their stores. And so, yeah, Target is pro-LGBT. We have known this. And so people find it like easy to focus in on them. I think we watched a video last year from that really cringe guy, Ethan something or other. Not Ethan Klein from H3H3, a different Ethan. And he was like, he just like smacked over a display. The conservatives went after Bud Light a couple months ago. We are familiar with that at this point, that, you know, when they did that collaboration with Dylan Mulvaney, and Matt Walsh kind of took credit for that. I need Matt Walsh. Like, if you go back through Matt Walsh's posts for the past couple of weeks, he's talking about Dylan Mulvaney. He's posing with a brand new tackle box and fishing rods as though he's going fishing. Very manly. He's been going after, here's what we should do. Pick a victim, gang up on it, and make an example of it. We can't boycott every woke company or even most of them, but we can pick one, it hardly matters which, and target it with a ruthless boycott campaign, claim one scalp, then move on to the next. Like, it keeps going. And he keeps talking about it. It's his main issue right now. Oh man, worst person you know is right about something. The euthanasia program in Canada is far more extreme than you think. Oh no. Like, the worst person you know has a good point. So basically they're using the fact that Bud Light issued something of a retraction after the Bud Light Dylan Mulvaney thing. Anheuser-Busch did some kind of retraction a bit, and they lost a bunch of stock market value. They're using that as they're galvanizing, like, okay, now we just need to go after someone else. And Target is very specifically, every year in June, they're one of the leading woke corporations, I guess. Target loses $9 billion in the week following boycott calls over LGBTQ-friendly kids clothing. He says, this is awesome, keep going. He says, I think this Target boycott has real staying power. Target has now branded itself as a far-left organization to the point where it's embarrassing to shop there. This is the branding that makes the boycott stick. It happened to Bud Light. I think it's happening to Target. This is what conservatives have missed in the past with failed boycott attempts. It's not enough to simply tell people not to shop somewhere or buy something. You have to make it so they don't want to. So he is basically saying, we are going to do a stochastic terrorism. It's very obvious, if you've been watching this ramp up for the past year, that they are planning to ramp up the threats. And they're talking about, we need to make it impossible for these corporations to have these. You know, it's not enough. It's not enough to stop buying their stuff. You have to make it unpleasant to shop there. Like, that's the rhetoric that they're going with. So initially, the kind of initial thing that happened was that this was just online conversation and boycotting discussion. And so Target removed Pride merch after the right-wing media throwing a hissy fit. So Target announced it will be making some significant changes following backlash from far right-wing media over the Pride Month merchandise. This is a huge L. Like, you have taught them that relatively little is going to make them back down. Relatively little pushback is just going to be like, oh, you know, like, people online are talking about boycotting us and we lost some stock market value, so we're going to like recant on all of our support. You have now taught them that they will succeed at being able to just basically scare people out of being trans supportive and being gay supportive. The conservatives in question are allegedly shocked over the offering of tuck-friendly swimwear and went as far as to call the company's CEO a, quote, pervert groomer. Target would not go into details about which specific products would be removed or what exactly would be changed, but a spokesperson said, quote, since introducing this year's collection, we've experienced threats impacting our team members' sense of safety and well-being while at work. Given these volatile circumstances, we are making adjustments to our plans, including removing items that have been at the center of the most significant and confrontational behavior. So it's actually possible that the initial thing was like, oh, the right-wing media is throwing a hissy fit. But they didn't just throw a hissy fit. They also made bomb threats. Target faces bomb threats amid LGBTQ controversy. Police investigate bomb threats to Target stores in Utah over Pride merchandise. Jackson Township Police Target reopens after evacuation due to bomb threat. Layton Target evacuated after bomb threats reported at multiple Utah stores. Also in Ohio, bomb threat at local Target. Company, quote, turned their back on the LGBTQ community. Suspect sent bomb threats involving 4 Target stores to a local TV news station. Callers from those TV stations reported the tips to police. Threats were for 4 locations. The tip stated that Target turned their back on the LGBTQ community and they placed bombs in all 4 stores. Oh, wait, what? This is claiming that the tip stated that because they pulled their support, they placed bombs in the 4 stores. What the fuck? That can't be real. There's no way. I mean, I think that what that is like, it would not be the first time. There was one with Marjorie Taylor Greene a few months ago where someone tried to swat her and they said that it was on behalf of LGBT people. And I really just think that that is cisgender people making trans folks look bad. Like they're trying to say like, oh, well, yeah, like these trans people are so violent. There were some TikToks that were blatantly lying about where the clothing was found in the store. They're basically saying, yes, lie about us to make a narrative that we can cave to. Yeah, because some of these people were saying, oh, this is happening in the kids section of the store. Here's a picture. Yeah. Target is claiming that the, quote, tuck-friendly bathing suits were only for adults. Look at where this was found in this store, in the kids/teen area of the store, right next to the child mannequins. That's like an adult-sized, can you just look at that? Like, look at it. Just look at it. Look at this person's hands. That's an adult with adult-sized hands. Look at how big that underwear is. That's not children's underwear. There's like an adult mannequin right next to the child mannequin. That's just a display in the store. It is not clear to me, having shopped in a fucking Target before. Are the people who are complaining about this so rich that they've never actually shopped in a Target? That's not child's underwear. It's heinous colors if that is actually what the tucking underwear looks like. That looks like a front aisle display. That looks like it's at the front of the store. Very obvious false flag. I wake, another psyop. Truly. There were people physically harassing customers and employees. I've seen some videos of folks going in and like talking to employees and being like, you support Satan and shit like that, but are there like some cases of physical altercations breaking out? There was a chud that filmed himself putting the suit on and strutting around the store, and all he did was show that it's not for kids because it fits an adult man. This is crazy, but I'm gonna take a second to say, hey, will you please hit like on the video? Thank you so much. Consider dropping me a donation because my full-time job is covering this kind of stupid news. I've seen a video or two of the absolute softest making a fuss ever. Nothing that could be really considered threatening, only harassing. Even a fellow trans person was mad at Target showing me the video, and I pointed out the editing and let them know that the suit was found in the general pride section at the front of the store, not specifically in the children's. I mean, to these conservatives, even if you just put it, in the front of the store in a general area, and not like in the children's specific section. Like the fact that it's not in an like behind bars, you have to have an employee unlock it. Behind bars, like adults only section, like adults only. The idea that children could be exposed to the idea of a bathing suit that could help you tuck. I just don't get what the problem was if it was in the kids section. I mean, yeah, so that's kind of what I'm driving toward, Not a Mermaid, is like it's the fact that children are exposed to in the public idea. Like these people think that transgender individuals should not be in public, and like no mention of trans people, no mention of gay people. They really do genuinely believe that they should have the option to shelter their children from the concept of certain types of people existing. Because of course, what they want is to be able to brainwash their children into becoming like cishet people. And they want them to, not have interracial marriages and all kinds of other stipulations, but primarily like the patriarchal aspect. So yeah, if they protect their children from learning about this, then they are going to prevent their children from becoming gay or trans. And that's not how it works. These people are also so obsessed with children's fertility. Like they might say, oh, you shouldn't let teenagers tuck because it could negatively affect their fertility because of the balls being too close to the body temperature issue. But it's like, why do you care about whether a 14-year-old is ejaculating sperm or not when they masturbate? Like, you should not be thinking about that. But yeah, the issue is it doesn't even really matter. They can say putting it in the kids section makes this grooming, but they really do believe that any any existence of trans people in public or any mention of trans people that's, outside of we can ridicule them. And, when right-wing men decide to dress up as women, it's funny because being a woman is a bad thing. And the joke is that a man dressing as a woman is emasculating. And like, that's what's funny about it. And like, I honestly think that when cis people do drag like that, they aren't even thinking of it in terms of like, oh, isn't it so funny that trans people exist? Like, I genuinely think that they're just like, haha, everybody is binary gender. And so me cross-dressing is because like being a woman is funny, haha. Like, I don't really think that trans people even enter into their mind most of the time. Yeah, the reasoning behind Section 28, keeping LGBT visibility out of schools in the UK. Visibility is a problem because it decreases the power of conformism, right? So about the bomb threats, what do you think about Target pulling Pride stuff in that context? I'm really conflicted about it. Just increase security. Like, honestly, yeah, like, I was engaged in a conversation about this recently. Like, is it okay for Target to pull their Pride merch if they think that keeping the Pride merch is going to result in a bomb thing happening in their corporation? And like, you can't cede that power. You absolutely can't. Because what you've now taught these people is that like, bomb threats work. You don't even have to actually do anything. You don't even have to actually be willing to follow through. You just have to call in a bomb threat and they will pull their support for trans people. And yeah, like, unfortunately, we discussed this previously, but I'll go over it again. Capitalism is possibly one of the only things that is going to stand against fascism right now. And so like, if you end up getting capital on your side in fascism, that's a bad thing. It's a good thing that we have Disney butting heads with Ron DeSantis. Like, that's a good thing. The idea that it is profitable to market to trans people and that it is not profitable to advocate against us and to drop your support of us. Big corporations have money to give to campaigns. And a lot of these big corporations do still give plenty of money to right-wing campaigns, and that's its own conversation. You have just successfully taught them that just calling in a bomb threat is enough to change the corporation's mind on this. And we need that not to happen. Like, it is one of the only things slowing this down right now, I believe, is like the ability for corporations to like sway public opinion. The reason I feel conflicted about it is that I'm not certain they are empty threats. You can't cave to terrorism. The response that generally the United States government has had to terrorism is an increase in security. And you can debate about whether that's okay. You can debate about what the lines are. Like, I personally think the Patriot Act is a lack of privacy that doesn't justify the increase in security. Personal opinion. So the thing is that like, Target as a corporation does have the ability to hire more security guards. They have the most state-of-the-art CCTV system. It's well known now at this point that Target lets you steal enough shit from them over the course of several years to equal an amount that they can get you on a felony charge for. They are able to keep track of you, keep your face in a database, like identify that you've stolen, and let you keep doing it until you like have enough evidence to convict someone of a felony. It's Walmart and Target. And then, yeah, that's another question. Do Target have no cooperation with police? You usually don't negotiate when a bomb threat happens. You call the police. It's that they like closed the stores. They evacuated the stores because of the bomb threat. And then I guess like the corporate decision was to go ahead and remove the Pride stuff from the shelves because that was allegedly what the bomb threat was about. Like these initial bomb threats. And the same thing happened. Budweiser factories nationwide hit with bomb threats. Bud Light brewer puts 2 executives on leave after uproar over transgender influencer. I kind of understand what you mean about like, what if some actual bombing happens, but I kind of feel like I would need to see an actual bombing occur at a Target before I saw this as anything other than like weaponizing the idea of a threat to control what people are doing. I guess as kind of like like you have to make them escalate, like you can't just capitulate. If someone makes a bomb threat, okay, maybe you need to evacuate the building right then because it's an imminent potentially threat. I'm not saying don't go into lockdown. I'm not saying ignore that, but I am saying like, okay, there was a bomb threat and then we didn't find a bomb. Okay. We did not find a bomb. So what we're going to do is, we are going to increase our security at the doors. We're going to put in metal detectors. Honestly, why is shit like this not standard in a lot more businesses because of how prevalent mass shootings are? Can't businesses have like policies around not allowing guns in their stores? Even in an open carry state where you have the legal right to carry your gun in public, I don't know that the law says that businesses are required to allow you to carry. So why doesn't Target just have a nationwide leave your gun in your car policy and put metal detectors at the front of the store or something along those lines? Like, there are things that they could do, is what I'm saying. Like, there are a potential range of options. You can deny people firearms in your store because it's private property. Right, yeah. Pay the money to make your employees and your shoppers safe. Put in the metal detectors. Theaters instituted gun bans after the Colorado Dark Knight shooting. Right, yeah. Like, you can do that. Ranging in severity all the way down to, like, frankly, they could probably afford to hire snipers to watch the doorways at multiple locations across the country. Like, if there's a location that recently received a bomb threat, I bet you that they could afford to have someone just like lurking in the rafters. And I'm not saying that you should do that, but I am saying that there is a range of potential options. We could just sit down and have a brainstorming session. What could we do to increase the security in our stores without, like, basically allowing fascists to be able to simply threaten us into, like, losing this culture war effectively? Taking the Pride stuff out of the store is not the option. You can, like, yeah, again, if there's an imminent bomb threat, then sure, clear out the store. It costs money and they don't want to spend money. Well, apparently they don't want to make money either, because they are going to lose people who are like, okay, well, the prices are better at Walmart, so I'll shop at Walmart instead. Like, if, like, Walmart at least didn't stick their nose into it and then recant. When you stick your nose into it and you say you're LGBT supportive and then you pull back out of it, like, you've demonstrated that you're weak and that your support of us was never real, and that hurts worse than having never gotten the support in the first place. So it's like, yeah, if the option presents itself, I would rather shop at Walmart now, because they're both terrible corporations. They've lost everyone at this point. They've lost the trans people who see they aren't backing them, and conservatives who are supporting the boycott aren't suddenly going to go back there. Yeah, that's the other thing too. When the conservatives say, oh, we're not going to shop there anymore, it's not like they then come back around and go like, as a reward for taking the Pride shit out of your store, I'm now going to spend money there. They're like, ahaha, we won, and like, we're going to continue to punish you because you're a woke corporation still fundamentally, so we're still not going to shop there. You can deny service to someone who is a security risk. If someone comes in dressed as a Proud Boy or Patriot Front, they could be denied service and entrance to the store. And because of Target's security system that's already in place, they could use biometrics to identify them and remove them from all Target stores. Griffin Security Company takes pictures and bans people from all casinos. If you win too much, it is perfectly legal. There are options. This is absolutely the wrong move. If they bring back their Pride stuff, it's not going to change the fact that they cowed. The money that they've lost in the stock market or whatever is going to stay lost. And now they've emboldened these people right before Pride. Last year, and I have an entire Stochastic terrorism playlist. If I haven't already linked it in the thing, I hope I remember to do it later. They have already demonstrated, like, all right, we're going to put a bunch of armed men in a U-Haul and then haul them to the local Pride event. And now those guys got stopped before they could show up. But, like, clearly they were planning to show up to a Pride event, and they're still harassing these bakeries that hold, like, a drag brunch and stuff. So really, this is just, like, the worst possible outcome right before Pride. You've demonstrated that, you have to cancel Pride if there's a bomb threat, unless the police can come in and thoroughly establish that there isn't a bomb threat, or if there's enough security before the event that you can guarantee that someone didn't come in and plant a bomb before the event occurred. Like, you have demonstrated to them that all they have to do is make a phone call and say, yeah, I'm planning on bombing this place. And then you can completely shut down without even having the government on your side. You don't need to pass any laws to get people to stop supporting trans folks in public. If you target them with violence, and then scaredy cis people are like, oh no, I don't want to be a target of violence. And it's like, yeah, duh, no, none of us do. But you're like able to distance yourself from us and keep yourself safe, and we don't have the option. Like, you can decide tomorrow that you're not going to be involved in this conversation and basically not be a target, and we are still going to be here. Oh, of course, yeah, and if violence were to come to their conservative events, they would be terribly outraged, because it's all about them being able to do fucked up shit to us, and us not being able to do literally anything. And of course, this fits into the context of already bomb threats have been made to Boston Children's Hospital with relation to libs of TikTok's tweets. Like, this has been an issue for months already, an issue since last year. There was a Wisconsin school that launched a Title IX investigation into the bullying of a trans student, and then that school was hit with several bomb threats. Like, this is their move. This has been their move for more than 6 months now. They just call in bomb threats. They don't even have to actually do anything. They're such fucking pussies. That's the thing. If they're gonna be fucking pussies and they're gonna make phone calls and do like the easiest form of terrorism possible, just call in and make a bomb threat, okay, well, we have to just keep doing what we're doing until something actually happens. Obviously, if the immediate bomb threat, like, call the police, have them clear the area, cool. Check, make sure there's nothing wrong, great. But until a thing actually happens, like, we have to stop caving to fucking bomb threats. Like, we really need to come up with some kind of like, when was the last time that a bomb threat like this actually resulted in a bombing, is a question that I have. Like, how many empty bomb threats have there been compared to how many actual bombings on US soil? Let me tell you, most of the bombings that I'm familiar with are like at abortion clinics. So, and they're not usually very impressive bombs. Yeah, if I wanted to blow something up, the last thing I would do is tell anyone. That, like, literally making a bomb threat kind of indicates that you aren't planning on actually doing anything. You know, like, if you want people to actually die, if you want to accomplish something with your bombing, the whole thing is that you should go and put the bomb there and, like, leave it alone and not tell anyone, and then a bunch of explosions happen. But this is the thing. This is, yeah, the bombings at abortion clinics didn't get call-ins beforehand. You only do a bomb threat, like, you only call in a bomb thing if you are planning to not actually follow through. It is literally the definition of performative speech. Last bombing I can think of is the Boston Marathon. Right, that was like the last major thing that I remember hearing about with regards to a bombing, was like the Boston Marathon, and that was like, what, 5 years ago now? It's been a while. More than 5 years? Jesus, how old am I? So we absolutely have to stop caving to this bomb threat bullshit. If they want to actually do a terrorism, maybe they need to actually do a terrorism and not do like the easy mode couch potato version where they can just make a phone call and like bring all trans acceptance to a grinding halt. Like, bro, that's not gonna work. That's the thing that they default to when they start showing up to our events with guns, but we have fucking guns too. So then they have to go back home. And they're like, what can I do that doesn't involve me actually having to confront a dangerous situation? Oh, I can just call in a bomb threat and everything will be fine. The IRA used to call in bomb threats with bombs in the UK in the 70s, 80s to avoid killing civilians on trains. They did detonate them, but gave everyone time to evacuate. Oh, because what they're doing is like, they were like, yeah, we're going to destroy infrastructure. And that's to make a point. But we don't want to actually kill anyone. Because that's not the point. Yeah, that makes sense. In this case, it's just empty. It's empty until I'm proven otherwise. Yeah, exactly. Conservatives do want to kill people, so you would think that they would set their bombs and then not say anything about it, but they're not going to. That's what it ultimately comes back to. They are not going to actually take the step. You have to keep refusing them, and if they want to actually take the step, if they want to make good on those threats, and like actually put some teeth behind those threats, sure. But you can't capitulate on like the assumption that they might follow through and do something. Because otherwise you're giving them complete power over the situation. And honestly, isn't it so weird to call in bomb threats? Like, that's not the American way. Bombs are not the American way. That's the ISIS, that's the Al-Qaeda way of doing things. We, good red-blooded Americans, we just go in with a semi-automatic weapon and like shoot a bunch of people. That's how actual terrorism works in the United States. Even in the recent events, we talked about that big terrorism weekend in December and like the Moore County electrical infrastructure being attacked. They could have bombed the power stations, and it would have made more sense to bomb the power stations, but they literally shot up the power stations, and that's how they deactivated the power stations. Yeah, they don't want to get caught with who they've been targeting. They do want us dead, so if they make a threat, we can be sure there won't be follow through, otherwise they get nailed legally. I mean, that's the thing. If you make a bomb threat, that's kind of whatever. You can't really get caught doing that. Like, it's kind of hard to get caught calling in a bomb threat like that. But if you do actually set off the bomb, then there's all this physical evidence, right? And they are still scared of the consequences of being violent toward other people. So to some extent, they do still, that fear of being arrested and all that does prevent them from doing the terrorism. So yeah, let the deterrents be what they are. Like, let the consequences be the deterrent instead of like letting them win. They're still making people feel unsafe even if they're not actually killing anyone. That's like par for the course though. Like, tell me, do any of you genuinely feel safe in public anymore? Like, let's say you're driving. If you know that another driver is driving recklessly, do you feel safe? When you go to the grocery store, do you feel safe? Like, when you go to the movie theater, do you feel safe? Or is there some part of you that is always scanning the room? Like, we have so many mass shootings in this country. We have so many like random acts of violence. When you get on public transport, are you 100% sure that there is not going to be someone who becomes violent or like chokes someone out until they die? Like, after 2020, everyone went crazy. Hey, I'm going to go ahead and tell you, Halo, you're kind of new to this stream area, and like, frankly, I want this idea to cross-pollinate into other communities, but COVID causes brain damage. When you lose your sense of smell from COVID, that's brain damage. And so all kinds of other shit in your brain gets messed up by it. And one of the main things that we're seeing is an increase in like irrational, violent behavior. Injuries and deaths from road rage incidents are on the rise since 2020. And it's not because like the pandemic in some esoteric way made all of our socialization disappear. It's not like being in the house for 2 weeks destroyed everyone's socialization and, oh, the 1 year of doing school from home ruined all children's ability to regulate their behavior. No, it's because COVID causes brain damage. So yeah, if you feel like the world has gone crazier since 2020, it's probably because of that. I get catcalled every day I go to the grocery store now. Obviously, yeah, it's worse if you're a woman or if you're gender ambiguous, visibly, you know, if you're black, it's worse. Yeah, with regards to like, do you feel safe going to Target? You know, oh, even if they don't actually follow through on the bomb threat, then people still feel unsafe at Target. Like, yeah, welcome to America. That's just what it's like here. So the thing that is so worrying to me about this right now is that we are entering Pride Month, and, you know, I live in a relatively decently blue place compared to some other places in the Midwest, and I am still like, should I switch into my rainbow earrings for this month? You know, should I be openly like, yes, it's Pride Month, and like have that be my like way of sticking it to them or whatever? Like, every time I go in public, like, yeah, should I wear my rainbows this month? I don't know, because there is going to be an increase in violence this month. Like, there clearly is going to be an increase in violence in June, and it sucks that instead of being proud, we are having to have this internal dialogue, this internal conversation about like whether we can be proud without getting killed. Like, people don't understand. That's why their whole like straight pride thing is bullshit. There's a reason why we have gay pride, trans pride, is because there are places in the world, and there have been times in the world, where you can just kill trans people and gay people and call it trans panic and get away with it. And so we had like a period of time where we're like, no, we're going to be out and loud and proud. And even if you decide that you're going to try to hurt us, we're still going to be out here. And now the backlash is worse than it has been in like the past, 50 years in the US. We haven't had this much anti-gay sentiment in society since like the 70s and 80s during the AIDS epidemic. I worry about buying cakes with pride colors, etc. I worry about poisoning, tell the truth. Yeah, like the idea that someone could put something in your food or harm you in some way. I do not live in a part of New York where there's a lot of Republicans, but just the other day on my way home, a few minutes away, there was a literal white supremacist tailgating me in his F-150. It's worse than ever. It's worse than the 70s and 80s. All the new laws bother me. This is worse. Yeah, like Mersh in the chat has been around and got to see firsthand what it was like in the 70s and 80s. The explicitly anti-gay laws that are passing are kind of worse in that way. And culturally, I don't know, like there are plenty of trans supportive and gay supportive people. And that's why, you know, we've had the support of these corporations, is because the corporations identified that marketing for us and being pro-gay is profitable. And so that's like a good thing. That's telling us that public opinion is changing, but there is also, as a result of that, an increasingly violent minority contingent that do seem like they are willing to use violent intimidation to sway public life, if not outright like actions of terrorism. Like the intimidation, like I guess calling in a bomb threat is a form of terrorism, but like actually doing a bombing is like a more intense form of terrorism, obviously. So it's scary, and we'll have to see, you know, it's my job to go over these news items. So I will be here throughout the month of June. If you're not already a subscriber, consider subscribing and turning on notifications so that you know when we go live, when the videos go live, and when I stream. Because if there is a bombing this month, you know that that's going to be the main topic of our stream that night. Like we are going to be keeping track of this. We're going to be keeping tabs on whether Matt Walsh and Libs of TikTok are supporting these terrorists. I can't imagine what it's like for people who are just now starting. Like, yeah, it's got to be crazy for you all who are like, I'm really early on hormones, and like people can't tell that I'm trans yet. I don't know if I'm willing to be out as trans. Of course, that's the intended effect. Of course, the intended effect is, oh, maybe I won't transition because I really don't need to. Like, I could live as a repressor and it wouldn't be so bad kind of ideology that people end up kind of stuck to. Like, oh, you know, I'll just repress and I don't need to transition. Like, I'm not so dysphoric that I'm suicidal, so I could just not. And like, that's the ideal in this situation for the conservatives. Like, the ideal is for you to be so scared of the ramifications that you just decide not to come out at all and you decide to repress. Does anyone else feel like something bad happening is inevitable? Normally I would chalk it up to anxiety, but after the Proud Boys U-Haul last year, it feels like we already dodged a bullet. No, I agree, Speedy. I've been saying since sometime last year that there is a possibility that this could go into like a civil war situation. Like, what's gonna happen if we have drag events happening in Pride Month and we have a bunch of conservatives show up with guns, and then we also have John Brown Gun Club who are like leftists there with guns? Like, what is going to happen if there is an actual shootout at one of these events? It's going to be unfortunate, but it's going to be blood in the streets. Like, it's going to be, you have to fight and kill to live. Like, and it's like, maybe people think that that's an exaggeration, but I've been watching this happen for over a year. Like, maybe you haven't been here for every single news item that I've covered over the last year. Not all of those segments even made it onto my channel. So if you're here watching this as a published segment on the channel in the future, then like maybe you aren't here for every single time we cover people with guns show up to intimidate at a drag show. Like, people throw a brick through the front window of a bakery that has a drag brunch where it's like just for fun. It's just dress up. Like, fundamentally drag is just playing dress up and it's fun. I've been watching all of this happen. I've been keeping tabs on the way that right-wingers speak about us, and I can tell you from a position of authority, from an informed position, that things are going to get dramatically worse soon. They have already attacked infrastructure. They shot up power stations in Moore County, North Carolina last year. They are showing up at these events with guns. They are doing Hail Hitler salutes. We covered an entire rally where there were a whole bunch of actual neo-Nazis that showed up. And even the Republicans who were against drag were like upset that there were white supremacists there doing like Nazi salutes. But they just didn't realize that that's who they're aligned with. They just didn't know. If there is an incident, the cishet allies will at least start to understand that we're not being alarmist with the genocide language, etc. We almost kind of need that. We almost kind of need it to tip into an actual bombing happens or an actual mass shooting at a drag event with children present. You know, like, we kind of unfortunately might need that to happen before cishet allies understand how dangerous this situation is. You know, it's going to be really hard to say, oh, that kind of violence can't happen if it becomes more obvious. Like, frankly, I think that it needs to be a drag show for kids. It's not like we haven't already had violent incidents Yeah, Max points out, I have low hopes for the libs to get it even after that. It's not like we didn't have the Pulse shooting back in 2016. It's not like we didn't have the Club Q shooting last year. Like, we have had violent events already, and it's easy for them to just be like, oh, you know, that was a fluke. That's just some fringe crazy shit. Maybe it won't even push the situation if some crazy violent thing does happen. I feel like we would have to get to the point of actual gas chambers before mainstream America wakes up to what's going on. It's much more tenuous to a person who hasn't studied genocide for you to evoke stochastic terrorism as being an aspect of the genocide. Like, people really don't understand that roving bands of insurgents and militia groups, like, that is one of the effects of government-sponsored fascism. Like, that is a necessary component. Wasn't the Club Q shooting specifically an 18-plus event too? Not full of children. Yeah, it wasn't. There was allegedly a drag event happening the following day, but it's an 18-plus event. I think the bar itself is 21-plus on a Saturday night. Will we see Walshy supporting terrorism? He will do it in the underhanded way. Like, if a bomb actually goes off at some place like this, they will not openly say this was a good thing. They will say things like, this is what happens when you groom children, and they won't denounce it. They won't openly say you should do this, but they are, you know, stepping around it and basically saying like, yeah, they deserved it because they won't stop grooming children. And then they're going to keep pushing the groomer rhetoric. Like, so if they're going to be like as supportive of the terrorism as they can be while still kind of like maintaining plausible deniability. A lot of people on Tumblr are saying any comparison of this to the Holocaust is anti-Semitic, and I'm losing my mind because that is so dumb. You should point out to them, deeply concerned, that one of the major actions during the Holocaust was the destruction of the Hirschfeld Institute for Sexual Study. The famous book burning pictures that you see from the Holocaust are of a book burning of the sexual science study, like the Hirschfeld Institute, where they specifically studied trans people. Yeah, you can compare this to the Holocaust because trans people were holocausted during the Holocaust. Trans people were put in camps. Trans people were put to death. Trans people were shot and gassed. Trans people were re-imprisoned after the freeing of the camps because being gay and trans was still illegal in some countries back then. So they were freed from the camps and then put in prison. The pink triangle emblems you see with the silence equals death is alluding to the Holocaust directly. Yeah, you know, people always say, oh, wow, isn't it so bad how they made Jews wear like the Star of David on their coat so that they could be visibly identified? And then they just like completely miss the fact that homosexuals and transsexuals were marked with the pink triangle, again, so that you can be identified easily and targeted easily. When will we be seen as deserving of legal recognition globally? Because that would be one hell of a landmark. Will we ever get there? I honestly don't think so. I mean, I'm not going to say never, but I am going to say not in the remaining maybe 60 years that I'm going to be alive. If I go really hard, and I'm about to be 30 next year, so I'm like 30. If I live to be 90 years old, I don't think that we will have global recognition for trans people and gay people. There are countries where you are still outright put to death for being gay as of this moment. So I don't really see how we're gonna fix this. You know, that's true. I never thought that I would live to see gay marriage legalized in the US in my lifetime, but it did happen. Although I don't think it will remain legal for long. That's the question, is like there's this push and pull of like we gain some rights, we lose them, things get safer and then they get more dangerous. I really do think that we're just gonna have to violently assert our rights. We're going to have to violently say like, no, you are not allowed to make my healthcare illegal. Like violently oppose this nonsense because the opposition to our existence is violence. They're clearly willing to use violence and threats of violence to prevent us from existing in public. Would the right want to have a war over this? The thing is that they've already started one. That's the thing that people don't understand. People who on the left don't understand that the war has already begun. Like whether you want to call it a war of attrition, whether you want to call it a Cold War, like we are already engaged in like battle tactics with one another. Yeah, our community is still recovering from the last genocide. Like there are already casualties of this war. You think that trans kids killing themselves because our rights are under attack aren't casualties of a war that has already started? We are already there. But yeah, it remains to be seen what's going to happen with this, but I think it's going to be bad. So fingers crossed. As a Jewish and queer person, people should be able to see that transphobia puts Jewish people in danger as well. Look at how transphobes called the change of the Women's March logo unfeminine. Yeah, because of the Jewish-looking nose on one of those people. And keep in mind, the other thing about trying to make the Jewish and queer question like all muddy and stupid is that like there are folks who are saying that the current rise in trans identification is because of Jewish control over the media. It's still kind of fundamentally anti-Semitic if you believe that it's part of like a media thing fueled by George Soros. Yeah, exactly. It's George Soros. What does war of attrition mean? Hold on. Attrition is an action or process of gradually reducing the strength or effectiveness of someone or something through sustained attack or pressure. So it's like a siege is a war of attrition. Like there's a castle and you're attacking it and you're surrounding it and you're like, okay, we're just gonna farm all of your crops and we're gonna eat and survive off of your land. We're gonna fish your streams. And within the city walls, all you have is the supplies that you have. And then once you run out of that, then people are going to start to starve and you will need to submit. So that's attrition. And so like the reason why I say attrition here is because, yeah, they're slowly working us down. They're like, yeah, we're going to make it so that, kids can't access hormones, because that just makes perfect sense. And then gradually start attacking adults getting healthcare and gradually start attacking adults' ability to use the bathroom in public. And, make it to where you can't change your identification and then increase the rhetoric against you so that people start, doing violence against you. It's not an outright war in the sense that it's V for Vendetta style. People are getting dragged out of their homes and imprisoned yet. So right now it's just like a war of slowly wearing us down.
Happy Pride from myself and my patrons, especially want to shout out Tiago Nascimento, Mersh Rolvog, Amanda B., Danielle McDonald, Sarah A., Spooky Heather Sylvia, Robin Olson, Michelle Winter, Athiette, Wellington Marcus, Jamie Jam, Desi Quiche, Suzanne Maynard, Nova, Kevin Young, Sojo, Elizabeth Bartell, and Mr. Atheist.